Hello, everybody. Welcome to The Whole Elephant. Thank you for being here. I'm really excited about this episode today. My guest today is Nicole. She is a singer, songwriter, streamer, and Megan's journey is crazy. She was kind of the first wave of young artists that got discovered on YouTube, like literally part of that first wave of where the term YouTuber even came from. And so on this podcast, we're looking for different perspectives on life. And sometimes we see people go viral and become big hits on YouTube and sign record deals and all this stuff. And we have no idea behind the scenes what that looks like, what that experience is like. And so we're going to jump into that with Megan today. And also, like we always do, talk about faith and spirituality and why are we here and what that looks like for her. I hope you guys enjoy the chat. Hey, Megan.
Hello.
We're doing it. Thank you for saying yes to doing this. I'm excited about today.
Oh my
this
gosh.
This is going to be a good day.
Did you know this is my first podcast?
No way.
This is my first podcast to ever.
You're online like every day streaming, but this is the first podcast.
Yes. Like I somehow do a lot of internet things, but have yet to be a part of any sort of podcast, at least to my knowledge. No. Yeah. This is my first podcast.
I feel so special now. Wow. And I feel like there's a little pressure on me for your first podcast for this to be good now.
Oh, well, if it makes you feel any better, I'm also, I'm just like a little nervous, but I know that I'm in good hands because you're so good at what you do. So I know it'll go like, yeah, you'll just, and it's, plus it's so nice that it's like with someone that I know.
Yeah.
That's
true. The first one.
Like in real life. It's not like our first time meeting.
Yeah. This is terrible audio only podcast information. But I'm totally jealous of your backdrop every time I see you and Cooper streaming. Yes. People are only going to hear this podcast, so they can't visually see it. But every time you're on, and like right now, I'm totally jealous of your Funkos and Pokemons and everything. You guys like really set it up well. It looks nice.
Oh, thank you. Yes, you understand the Funko obsession. You are a fellow Funko lover. But yeah, I'm glad that we have a space where we can like display all of our Funkos. And it's just like, this room is kind of like our little nerdy cave, basically. It's where we stream on Twitch. We play a lot of our video games in here. And then we just have so many random collectibles from video games that we love. And it's quite the collection.
And you're in Nashville. How's Nashville right now?
Nashville's good. This is my first Nashville fall that I've gotten to experience. And I get it. I get it. Like I was 8 years in LA and we don't really get like the leaves changing colors.
Yeah.
And the cool breeze. I mean, the weather's amazing, 70% of the year there, but it feels nice to like experience a change in season.
Right.
I'm
not sure I could do it though, because like in LA today and yesterday, it like dropped below 70 and I was freezing.
Yeah.
Freezing.
100%. Still here. I am not, even though I've been here for a year and I've had one winter here, I'm still not like used to the weather. And literally when it hit 60, the puffy jacket came out. I was like, this is what LA did to me. 60 degrees. Like, I don't care if I look like a marshmallow and everyone's in a t-shirt. Like, this is my comfort right here.
Oh, totally. I'm completely LA soft.
And you were like born and raised, right?
Yeah. No, I grew up here my whole life, so I've only known good weather. I don't think I could do it. I don't know if there's anywhere else. That's not true. There's other places I'd want to live, but the weather would be an unbelievable shock to me if I moved anywhere else.
Yeah, but for some places it's worth it, like New York.
That's true, but I don't know that I want to live in New York unless I've like something as really good has happened in my life and I have to live in New York.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I'm living in New York because I have a project going on. That would be really cool, but I don't think I would just like move there to move there.
Yeah, it would. It's a different experience.
But it is my favorite place to visit, for sure.
R.I.P. shows. R.I.P. Broadway.
I know. We were supposed to go last May, Raquel and I, and we couldn't. And then we're like, we'll just go in a couple months. It'll be fine. And now who knows when we'll be able to go back.
It's wild, isn't it? We went to New York January of this year, which feels like years ago now, longest year ever, and we saw Come From Away, and I still have moments where I'm like, we saw one of like the last Broadway shows for who knows
Yeah.
how long, and we
Yeah.
almost didn't go on that trip, and so I'm so glad that we got to experience that, like
That's
a
a good one
Broadway
to
show.
catch.
Oh,
That's a good
it's
one to catch. It's beautiful.
amazing. I thought something so unique about that show was the fact that the cast members played so many different characters. Like
Yeah.
I don't think I've seen something like that where the leads are like jumping in and out of accents and
Yeah. Like, and really diverse roles that they had to jump in and out of.
yes,
Not
it
just like,
was
oh, I kind of play this girl here and I kind of play this girl here. It's
mm-hmm.
like polar opposite characters
Yes,
that they're jumping in and out of.
completely
Yeah.
different characters they're jumping between and this each so distinct. No,
Yeah.
it was really special.
Do you feel a little bit fortunate that, I mean, for the most part, what you and Cooper are doing, streaming and making music and stuff, that's an indoor activity that you've been able to keep doing through all this?
Oh my gosh, yes. It's like I'm so thankful that everything we do is online
Yeah.
and that it can live online even from like, not being able to like tour or anything anymore, but the fact that we can play live music online and
Yeah.
still have like a small crowd there, like a
Right.
small club size audience show up weekly is is pretty awesome to have. And we are definitely highly aware of how lucky we are and how lucky we are to be able to work together as a husband and wife,
Yeah.
and for it to, I mean, for the most part, because obviously you're gonna butt heads from time to time.
Yeah.
We're
Yeah.
both stubborn people, but to work so well together, it's
Right.
really nice. And to,
Yeah,
yeah,
it's nice that you guys had been doing it before, so you weren't like scrambling to try to figure it out, you know? Like it
yes, like
already looked good before COVID. Like SNL tried to like send cameras to people's homes, and all the videos for SNL like had the ring lights in people's glasses, and like
oh
no
yes, oh
nobody
we
knew
had
how
that.
to do it. Yeah. But like when COVID started, nobody knew how to do it. But those are like things you guys had already figured out. Like you were one step ahead of the
Yes, we went through that phase like way before COVID, way before pandemic. We had some rough streams. Our audio was terrible. We used to use a camera that wasn't compatible for live streaming and would shut off every 30 minutes. To
game.
our OGs that have been watching us on Twitch for the last year, the ones that are still here after that phase, that's impressive.
Yeah. Well, we're going to talk about streaming in a little bit here, but I want to kind of go back to the beginning of your story. And the beginning of the story kind of starts with YouTube. Uh,
Yes.
Talk to me about how that story started and how your journey in music
Oh,
kind of started out.
oh my goodness, feels like a lifetime ago. Well, when I was around 15 years old, my sister was actually taking guitar lessons, and at the time, like I played piano. We grew up playing piano, and so I had like somewhat of an interest in music and would karaoke a lot at the house, and that was how I dabbled in singing. But my sister started taking guitar lessons, and I was like, that looks like fun. And I don't know what it was, but after I learned like three basic chords, like the first three everyone like learns on a guitar, like G, D, E minor,
Yeah.
I wrote my first song. And I don't know why I never did that on piano, but I just maybe was having my own little Taylor Swift moment in my room
Yeah.
and felt, super cool knowing these three chords. And I like to say that at that moment, something clicked where I was like, whoa, like that was really cool. I took these like emotions that I was feeling in this moment and I was able to express it in this way that I had never done before.
What was it about? Do
And
you remember what it was about?
oh yes, I actually put it out later on.
Oh,
I kind of
nice.
like reworked it and put it out. So it's called Never Want to Let You Go. It's a very dramatic song about a boy that I didn't even date, but someone that we like went on a date, and
Hmm.
then he told one of my guy friends that hey man, like, I don't know, she just seems kind of like quiet. Also, he took me to a movie. Sir.
She never talked the whole time.
She was like, I don't know, they're too shy. So basically, like, the song, I'm like, you never gave me a chance to like show who I can be. Like, it's one of the lyrics in there. But then I had to get dramatic in the chorus, like, still like, never want to let you go. Tell me how it ought to be. Like, I was just getting, I over dramatized the situation for sure. But
Yeah.
it felt really good to do. And so after that moment, I remember like shortly after, because I just would spend all my time doing that after that, just playing guitar, singing, learning new songs. I told my parents, like, I think that I want to do this like with my life. And the first thing that my parents told me was, that's great, but you're kind of mediocre. Like, literally use the word mediocre, but we're very encouraging in the sense of like, if you want to do this, like, just put in the hard work and we'll be there to support you.
Right. Like,
So
you're very mediocre, but if you want to get good at this, we'll help you.
yes, exactly.
Okay. All right.
And so I think they just didn't want me to be one of those people that went on American Idol and thought that they were like amazing.
Right.
And to be fair, my range was very limited, extremely limited. Like, one of the first producers I ever worked with said, like, I basically had like an octave range. Like, I building songs around my vocals were like very difficult in the beginning. But I put a lot of time and energy into it, and then I started going to open mic nights and talent shows, like any and every opportunity I could to like just get out there. And I grew up in Houston, well, a suburb of Houston called Katy, Texas. And the music scene, it's not like Austin even or anything like that. There's not a ton around. So I mean, I played Mexican restaurants, wine bars, and I got paid in fancy water at the wine bar. Like, because I couldn't even give me wine because I was 16 years old. So like, oh, we have this fancy bottled water. I wasn't even making money. I just didn't care. I wanted to get out there and just hone my craft, get comfortable performing in front of people.
Right.
Because before that, I maybe sang at one talent show when I was in 4th grade or something. But other than that, it was just like, it was time just to go all in and get uncomfortable and get in front of people and try out my original songs in front of people.
Yeah.
But YouTube came into play maybe about a year or year and a half of doing that kind of grind in the real world. I'll say the real world. And then internet world came into play thanks to my dad, actually. So my dad, I don't know how he became aware of like covers on YouTube being a thing, but he's like, hey, like, everything you're doing, like, you can make like videos of this and just put it on the internet. So we worked out a deal with my mom because my mom was not a fan of 16-year-old Megan being on the internet.
Yeah.
And the deal was I couldn't use my last name. So we went with my middle name, which the whitest name ever, Megan Nicole. Took out my Flores. None of my Mexican heritage in there at all. But it's because she didn't want my last name on the internet, which is fair. But it's still like, it's so crazy to think that I played around with other stage names. Like, at one point, I think Ruby J was on the table if I wanted to be a country singer.
Ruby J.
Just let that sit for just process that for a second. Ruby J. I do not look like a Ruby J.
No. That would not have fit. But this was this was not like, hey, a lot of people are getting famous off of YouTube, we should try this.
No.
This was not at that time.
No, it wasn't. YouTuber was not a word. This is how long ago this was. Being a YouTuber was not a career. To us, it was an opportunity to expand who was hearing my music outside of these local bars.
Right.
And that was kind of the extent of it. I mean, at the time you were seeing some people have success. I think Megan and Liz were a twin sister duo that were like a little bit before me. There was another group called Boyce Avenue, and they were starting to find success doing music on YouTube. and just, yeah, there was just very like a handful of people kind of doing it. And I think it was about maybe a year of posting. I ended up doing this collab with an artist named Tyler Ward, and I went out there. We worked on a song together. Actually, we finished that "Never Want to Let You Go" song together that I had started when I was 16. And he asked if I wanted to do this cover of "Love the Way You Lie." Hey, this new Rihanna Eminem song came out. Do you want to be on it with me? Sure. Ends up like blowing up overnight, and next thing I know, I'm at like 100,000 subscribers, which was a huge deal. And I was getting like text messages from people like, oh my gosh, like I'm seeing this video everywhere. And like, if you go watch it now, it's honestly so cringe. But there was something like, I rap in the video. It's very cringe. But I don't know, just something like doing covers on YouTube like 10 years ago, like at a certain point became a really cool thing to do. People thought it was awesome to see like songs they love being done in a new way on the internet. And it kind of felt like, I imagine, like you're kind of like the first to discover these like new artists in this little corner of the internet. But that's when I started taking it really seriously, and it was like, wow, okay, this is a job now. I have people that are wanting to see content.
So you have all these subscribers and you keep putting out videos. When did like the actual music industry come calling in that process?
So the actual music industry came calling. When did I put out my first song? It'll be 10 years this next year. So 2011. And I posted my first video December 2009. So not maybe like a year and a half, because maybe 2 years, which honestly, like saying that feels fast.
Yeah. It's really
that feels
fast.
very quick. But doing like, I guess that was just for YouTube. And I guess in my mind, I had already been putting in about a year and a half outside of YouTube. But yeah, so about a year and a half, I put out my first original song.
It probably feels fast now, but like when you're that age, it feels like forever, right? Like I've been doing this forever.
Yes.
I need the next thing to happen.
Yes. Time moves so slow when we're young. Oh my goodness. But no, and I was putting out videos very frequently back then too. So it probably felt like a lot.
Yeah.
But my first original song is what got the attention of record labels. I put out this song. It was called BEA Beautiful. And it resonated with so many people, like way more than I ever thought. Because basically the idea of the song is a song about wanting to experience the feeling of being in love. Because when I went into my first few writing sessions, I was 16 years old and had been working, towards my music career for 2 years before that. Yeah. I had never experienced being in love with someone. So I was like, I don't know. Like, I don't want to like sing about something I don't know. Like, I guess Never Want to Let You Go is the exception. I did get very dramatic in that, but I wanted to write something about, wanting to experience that. And I think a lot of people related to that, especially around that age at that time. So the video blew up. YouTube used to look so different. The front page used to have the most favorited, or like most liked, most commented, like most watched videos within a 24-hour period on their front page. They had these like different sections.
Now they just have ads.
Now it's just ads and random 8-year-old videos the algorithm wants to show you. Yeah. And half the comments are like, why am I here? How did this end up in my feed 8 years later? But it used to be like, oh, so the top videos would like show up here. And Beautiful was like number 1 in each category. It was pretty insane. I think it had like, I don't want to throw out this number, but I feel like it had like 6 million views or something in a day, which back then was like huge.
Yeah, massive.
Like 6 million views in a day was like on an original song, like not even a cover.
Yeah.
So, I mean, within that week, I ended up, I just remembered we were moving from Texas to California the week I released that song. So we already had plans to be in California, but the Bay Area for my dad's job.
So not for you, This
Not for
wasn't
me.
like we're packing up and moving to LA for Megan.
No,
Or
it wasn't.
Ruby,
Or
as it
Ruby
were.
J. Yeah, Ruby J. This is for Ruby J's career. No, I think Ruby J would have moved to Nashville, Tennessee sooner.
That's true. That's true.
So yeah, we weren't even moving for my career at the time. So it ended up like, I guess I'm jumping ahead, but it kind of ended up aligning perfectly. So we're packing up to move to the Bay Area. I put this song out. It's blowing up. Literally, I get on a plane. I'm in Miami, and I am meeting with P Diddy. Bad Boy Records is starting. They're He was calling it Bad Boy 2.0. They were kind of like coming back around. They wanted to reinvent themselves, and they wanted a pop artist on their label. So I took this meeting. It was me, my mom, and my sister. They were like my crew. I mean, I was a kid.
Yeah.
I had to be 16, 17. And so I'm very thankful that I had people to keep me sane throughout the journey because it starts to get a little wild. So the three of us end up in Miami, and we get to his house, and the first thing you have to do is you take your shoes off, and they have complimentary slippers for you.
Of
So
course.
you wear slippers in the house. The day before, I'm on the phone with him. He's asking me what I want the chef, like, I think they phrased it like, "What's your favorite meal?" And I said, "Fajitas." And they said, "Okay, the chef's gonna make you fajitas tomorrow." And I was like, "Wait, can I change my answer?"
Sushi, lobster. Why did I say
Lobster.
fajitas?
Yeah, exactly. So we had fajitas though at his house, and we just had a conversation on the couch. They, I was I was very bold back then. Not that I'm not bold now, but just looking back to be like 17 years old in like P Diddy's house, and I had already been working on my own music. I had basically an EP together, and I was very clear that I was looking for the right partner in this. That
Mm.
I wanted to feel like someone that was going to like champion what I was doing, and I was, yeah, just very very straightforward. I wasn't fully like, oh my gosh, here comes like my knight in shining armor, the record label, to like, it was a cool
Mm.
moment, but I was
Right.
also like very like business minded, like, what are you going to do for me?
Right. You're right. You're like, I just got 6 million views in a day and I'm on my
Yeah.
way. If you'd like to come along with me on this journey, P. Diddy, you're welcome to come.
Oh my goodness. Which I think he was going like by Puffy back then,
Puffy.
which is
Yeah.
kind of
Who knows
funny.
what to call him year by
That
year.
phase, yeah, that year I think he was Puffy. I played
Did
him
it
some songs.
go ahead?
No, I played him some songs on his piano for him, which was very out of tune. And it was, I think it was just there for the aesthetic, but
Right. What was the vibe at that time? Like, did it feel safe? Did he feel safe? Did it feel like a car salesman? Like what was his vibe? What
his
was his pitch like?
his pitch, yeah. I Oh my goodness, I just remember this other, like, memories are flooding back. He was also playing my music over the speakers in his house when I walked in. So they were definitely trying to like, do the whole thing. Like, we got your favorite food here, the music's
Right.
playing over the speakers. He was very excited talking about Bad Boy 2.0, what they were going to do.
Mm.
But overall, I mean, as casual as it can be hanging out at P. Diddy's house
Yeah.
in
In
slippers
slippers. Yeah.
on his very nice white couch that I was worried I was going to spill my fajitas on. um, but it was just like a conversation about like what their goals were and what they wanted, that they just wanted me to be a part of it, and what they were, hoping for, like, get in there, make an album right away. They were doing a partnership with Interscope for this new deal that they were doing. So I became a Bad Boy Interscope artist, and
Mhm.
I'm jumping ahead again. But so after that Miami meeting, I flew to New York a couple days later. Oh, after going back to Houston to finish packing, fly to New York. I'm in a room now with Jimmy Iovine and P Diddy,
Mhm.
but I am so sick. I'm getting over a nasty cold. They still wanted to take the meeting because when on earth are you going to get those two men in the room at the same time?
Yeah,
Which is
absolutely.
it's kind of wild for this like 17-year-old girl that two very like important figures like I mean, I was feeling like pretty cool at the time, not gonna lie.
Yeah.
My attorney, at some point between like before putting my song out, I started working with an attorney. Or maybe it was like my timeline's getting a little mixed up. It might have been like literally the week of I the song came out. I got the attorney. Sure. But he was very impressed with how calm I was. He's like, "You act like you could care less who you were in the room with." I was like, "Well, I'm trying to be professional."
Yeah.
But yeah, I ended up taking that meeting in New York. Somehow pulled through because when I went in there to kind of like practice on the piano what I was going to play for them, I mean, nothing was coming out of my voice. It was wild. Like, it was an actual miracle that when it came time to sing for them, I was able to.
Nice.
But so basically right after that meeting, the second meeting with Jimmy and Puffy, paperwork was like being drawn the next week. It was pretty wild. But we didn't finalize things because I think this was maybe right before the holidays, because I don't think I finalized paperwork until like January of the next year.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's also insane because I got a really nice signing bonus that allowed me to move out to LA and invest in my career myself, because that's another part of the journey, but I'll let you ask questions because I'll just keep going.
Yeah, no. So, I mean, a lot of people, you know, when we listen to the radio, when we see pop stars online or whatever, we see the end product. Like, what is the process once you sign those papers? What is the process that they take you through to get you to that point?
Yes. Oh my gosh. So first it was honestly a lot of anxious sitting in the beginning until I got a new manager. A manager plays such a key role in an artist's career, honestly, because that is going to be your person that's like the one that's truly like championing you in what you're doing and then gonna push things to make things happen.
Yeah.
So we move out to the Bay. Actually, that New York meeting I took, I didn't fly back to Houston that time. I flew to San Francisco. Never been there before in my life. We went into the apartment that we were going to be living in until my parents found a place they wanted to settle. And I cried. We slept on a sleeping bag on the floor, and I cried myself to sleep. And then the next morning I woke up, and I felt like this calm peace. Like, no, California is like where I know I've always wanted to be, and it's where I want to be. And I'm like just one step closer to LA. Yeah. So shortly after, maybe after 6 months of going back and forth between the Bay and LA, I end up realizing, oh, I need a place. Because the process that they took me through was going to be a lot of songwriting. So after sitting for a bit, it's like, hey, we need to get moving. Yeah. But then once we started moving, it was like I was in sessions all the time. I was not writing as much as I wanted to, and as much as I expressed to them that I wanted to be a part of. So I ended up like, singing a lot of songs that were already written, and some were like awesome, but it was a lot of dance tunes, and they kept asking me they wanted me to start taking dance lessons and things like that, which I wasn't opposed to because I wanted to be able to move on stage either way. Yeah. But I kept expressing like, I don't see myself like dancing in my music videos. That's not what I visualize for myself. I usually see myself, especially back then, like with an instrument in my hand. Right. Like, I'm not going to try to be like a Gaga who's an amazing dancer. Like, my videos won't be about choreography, but like storytelling in a different way, like a mini movie. Right. So
were they open to hearing that, or do you think that they had like my view of the industry sometimes is like they are creating like their avatar character.
Yes.
And they design it exactly how they want it, and then they tell you, okay, now do this. You know what I mean? Was it kind of like that?
In a lot of ways, yes. Just because, like I mentioned, I was expressing I wanted to write more, and it was just like, okay, well, also here's this song that we found for you. And this is wild to think about, but One Direction was up and coming at the time.
Mm-hmm.
Like, obviously, they're up and coming. Like, I mean, they blew up overnight,
Yeah.
but it was like that 1 month where it was like, One Direction?
Yeah.
And then they were playing like arenas the next day.
Right, right.
But there was like talks about them being on like one of my songs at one point, which is kind of
Mm.
wild to think about. I think they were trying to make that happen, but then they literally blew up overnight. So they were like, okay, never mind. But yeah, it was a lot of like, we want you to sing these dance songs, and like they were amazing, and the writers I was like that were, you know, were a part of them were amazing and so talented, but it just like didn't feel like me at all.
Mm.
And then it was like, as things kind of progressed, it was like I had managers even. Like I ended up going through a couple managers before I had found one that really, really meshed with me. But I even had people being like, you're not edgy enough, or like maybe you should try wearing leather pants. Like I'm pretty sure that was an actual conversation that happened.
Right,
Like you
right,
should wear tighter clothes. And it
right,
was just like, this is just, that's no, like not going to, like that's not who I am, and that's not what I want to be. And that's
right,
fine if you want to wear tight leather pants, but that's just like, I wanted to be colorful and fun, and I wanted to wear crazy dresses, and I wanted to also sing songs that I was a part of that were like my stories to tell or my friends' stories to tell, not
right,
stories that were being handed to me that were mostly about like being up in the club.
right, right.
When I had never even experienced being in a club.
Yeah, no, I mean, I remember the first time in my life that I like found out that the artists don't write their own songs all the time.
A
And
lot of the
I
time.
remember just being like, wait a minute, like that song's not about your dad. That song's about someone else's dad. This is a
Yeah.
fraud. It's such a weird industry. And in that industry, you have songwriters writing songs for people that
Mm-hmm.
maybe they get, you know, they're writing it for Britney Spears at the time and she passes. So then they email it to this person. They just keep
Yes.
emailing the same song
Yes.
until someone picks it up. So you're getting some of those songs as well.
Oh, yes. I'm getting songs that like were probably like rejected by like 5 billion people before me, especially being a brand new artist. I had a meeting with Diane Warren. Um, that's her name, right? My brain. I'm drinking my coffee. Huge songwriter. Um, that like I think she did like a bit like huge Aerosmith songs, all sorts of. She's like an icon. But
Mhm.
I remember in that meeting, she was like, I have this one song for you, but technically an Australian artist released it, but no one cares. And I'm like,
Mm.
no, I want to find my voice. Like, I
Yeah,
don't want to
yeah,
sing a song that already exists in the world and has like a decent amount of views. Like, that's not what I want. And we ended up finding like one song that I had a producer like honestly bring a new life to it. And it felt really good. And it became like one of my favorites. But it never came out.
right.
None of the songs came out. That's the
Were there
spoiler. But
were there people in those rooms that like wanted that authenticity as well? Like were there people in there like trying to create legit art, but just the industry kind of, you know, thwarts that a little bit? Like were there people in it with you that wanted to create art?
I think the one manager I got later on connected me connected me with some people like that, and some
Mm.
producers that I still know to this day, that I feel like I really like I was able to like grow with them. And even before I was signed, the first producer I ever worked with, his name was Tom Mugardichian, and he really, and that's probably why it like was hard too singing other people's songs, because he really gave me a chance to process what I wanted to say, and like
Mm.
allowed space for that, especially as a young new artist,
Yeah.
to
You
kind
found the
of.
love for that early and then it was hard to get
Yes.
away from that. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So then to not be able to like tell my own stories and like, wait, I can't be a part, like, what?
Right.
And it just
Right.
like kind of, just start snowballing, and you're like happy to be in the studio. And honestly, like, it's pretty wild too, because I would be in these massive studios that who knows how much they were paying an hour. My goodness, so much
Yeah.
money. And some of my favorite sessions ended up being at people's house, like recording vocals in like a makeshift booth in a closet. Like,
Yeah. Welcome to Hollywood.
yeah. And
Yeah.
like those were some of my favorite songs I made, and it was
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah.
And I probably just felt like so at ease because you're just thinking like, my gosh, like I know I'm not paying for this, but in some ways I'm paying for this because the label will take money out of the sales of songs for this, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. Yeah. So when and how did the relationship with the record label end?
So I was with them until probably I was with them for a while, maybe 3 years, 4 years, and it was interesting because the whole journey. It's like there was so much hype behind it. I mean, I made a video with Diddy that went up on my YouTube channel before, working on all this music, and next thing I know, Interscope and Bad Boy are breaking up basically.
Yeah.
And Bad Boy hadn't been really keeping Interscope like in the loop on what I was working on because I had like my point person was over at Bad Boy. And I will say this, his name was Harv. He was the VP at Bad Boy at the time. I really feel like Harv's heart was in it. He was like really excited for me and about me. He was the one that discovered me and like brought me to Diddy. But I just think that he ended up like keeping so much to himself until it was perfect to present to Interscope that when it came time for the breakup, they took some of the Bad Boy artists with them, but I wasn't included in that. Mm-hmm. And so I was just with Bad Boy, and I basically had a decision. I remember having a phone call with Harv, and he was like, hey, like you can stick around with us and like wait to go like find another like partner, which I don't even know if they ever did. I'm not sure how that went. And also there was a little bit, I remember it like an ultimatum kind of they wanted me to stay with a specific manager who was a huge like A-list manager, but my day-to-day person, it was that thing I was talking about. They didn't mesh with me. They didn't understand. They had attitude from time to time, and it was just it just wasn't the right environment that I wanted to be in to like nourish my artist, like inner artist or whatever. It was just like, yeah, it wasn't great. So it was kind of like, come like, come stay with us, but also like want you to stay with this management if you do stay with us.
Right.
And I was like, I think this is my, like it's been years and I put one song out and I paid for my own music video. I paid for my own music video. So I was like, I think this is time just to like fly away and, make my own music and start telling my own stories.
Right. So from the time that you uploaded that first thing on YouTube to ending that relationship with Bad Boy Records, what was it, like 6 years time? 7 years? Less?
So 21.
I mean, that's
maybe
like
3-4
that's
years.
A crazy short amount of time, and like you lived a lifetime in that amount of time.
Oh, it was wild. And there's so many things that I'm thankful for. Because of that signing bonus, I was able to move out to LA. Honestly, like it still blows my mind, like because talking to other people that have been signed, like it was all of it was a God thing. Like it doesn't make any sense. Like that we happened to move to California that same week. I happened to get like one of the highest signing bonuses I've ever heard in my life, and it supported my career when they weren't like the ones helping me. I was able to pay for my own music videos and move to LA and like still move along my career, even if like, they weren't doing their part the whole time.
Right.
It's all pretty wild. I'm going on a tangent. What was the question?
No, I want to move forward anyway. I hope it's okay that I tell this story. I didn't ask ahead of time, but just a couple years ago, so we were at Disneyland with you and Coop and some other friends, and we were in line for Peter Pan. You remember this?
Oh, it's coming back to me.
and there was a girl who like leaned over the aisle and was like, "Are you Megan Nicole?" And you're like, "Yeah." And this girl was probably like 15 or 16, like definitely high school age. And she was like, "Oh my gosh, I used to listen to you when I was little."
Yes.
And like, it was so weird because I'm like you're like, when you were I'm still in my 20s. Like,
yeah. Like
all of it
especially
happened to you when you were so young, and it was like a lifetime in this short amount of time.
it
Like,
it
was it weird when it was over? Like, I'm still young,
yeah.
what do I do next type of thing?
Oh, I started writing a script about my quarter life crisis, like actually, because
Mm.
it was real. And I was like, this, after I processed that, I started to like use those emotions. And I don't know anything about writing a script. I should finish it though, because it's a very like interesting, entertaining story of like the rise of a pop star and fall before the pop star is even where she wants to be. If
Yeah.
Almost Famous wasn't already a very popular title, that would be like my book or my
Yeah, yeah.
my script. Um, but it's pretty wild to think that I like you said, lived this whole, like, I experienced so many things in such a short amount of time. Like, I didn't even talk about the amount of traveling I did after
Yeah.
YouTube. It opened so many opportunities to tour. Shout out again to Boyce Avenue, because they took me on my first ever tour. And when I was in 11th grade, I said goodbye high school. I started homeschooling for my last year, and I hit the road. I got to travel like all throughout Asia, throughout Europe, like 2 or 3 times, and I mean, I've gotten the chance to play for like 15 to 20,000 people like a handful of times, and that's pretty wild. So
Yeah.
it really just it feels like like by the time I hit 25, I was like, man, like I feel so like old and I'm like used up. Like I'm done. Like I lived like my pop star dreams. I might not have had like, a top Billboard hit, but like I've got a lot of cool opportunities.
Right.
I mean, shout out to Radio Disney. They like supported my career a lot early on, and like XM Hits One.
Yeah.
Um, but it just yeah, I think for a long time I let that statement bother me too,
Yeah.
of just like, oh, like up until recently, like I literally started working on a blog post about this, because I feel like for the first time I'm realizing that being a part of someone's childhood, even if they're like no longer on the journey with you, is such a cool thing to be a part of, and to be a part of like that nostalgia for someone,
Yeah.
and to be
Yeah.
in their formative years, like to have these
Totally.
songs be the playlist to their lives, and now we're all grown up. It's pretty cool, and I've like kind of come to terms with like, oh, like that statement, like, oh, I listened to you when I was younger, like it doesn't have to be a terrible thing.
Right, right. It could just be what it is. It doesn't have to be anything more. It doesn't have to be,
Yes.
and now you're washed up. It
Yeah.
doesn't have to be
Yes.
it doesn't have to be anything more that in a specific moment in time this girl saw your music and enjoyed it, and that can be a special thing in and of itself.
Yes, exactly. And I think my brain, for years, it'd always be like, oh, and then, the washed up before you
Right.
were the has been without even being a bin, like,
Right, 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 right.
and that
So
would like
you
play in
and
my head.
Cooper are doing you and your husband Cooper are doing
Yes.
live streaming now. And
Yes.
it's kind of interesting because you guys just kind of like picked up and started it and had a couple followers, and it's steadily growing and growing and growing. Are you enjoying going back to the grind it out for followers process, or are you hoping for like another lottery ticket type of situation?
Oh man. So it is interesting. I would say overall, I'm really enjoying starting something from the ground up again. I think it's a really cool feeling. Instead of like looking, like at my Instagram followers like dropping off, I'm like able to like look at, Twitch and other elements of that like grow,
Right.
and just to see any kind of growth feels really nice. And it is a grind because there's moments where I'm like, dang, like I put 10 years in this. Like, if
And I'm
only I
playing
started it.
freaking Pokemon online for people.
Yes. And if only I did that like a few years ago if I was like, more at a peak, if Twitch was around, then dang, I could have been playing Pokemon for like thousands of people. But in another way though, it's like, I think it's been this sounds probably strange to say, but like almost like healing in a lot of ways for those moments of negativity where I'm like, oh, like I'm just like, the I'm has been, or I'm washed up now, washed up pop star, can't do anything else. To have something that I'm excited about and that I'm building and that I'm able to build it with someone that I really care about, that feels really special. Yeah. And, I'm hopeful that it continues just to grow. And I mean, these numbers are tiny, but today we opened Pokemon cards for like 80 people. And that's honestly kind of awesome. Like, hello, you wanted to watch us like do something nerdy that we love, like open Pokemon cards. And just awesome. To have, have 80 people show up for that. And I had a friend that made a tweet. He works at Twitch, and he was talking about just kind of putting those numbers into perspective. Like, if you imagine them in the room with you, like that's, 100 people, small, like, club. That's a small club show. Right. So just putting those numbers into perspective is nice.
Yeah, that's awesome. So part of my journey of this podcast is my own faith journey and trying to figure out what I believe and what I think about different things. And so I always leave this part a little open-ended. If you're up for talking about it, faith, God, spirituality, why are we here? Any of those sorts of questions. What are you thinking about lately? What's been going through your mind with those sorts of things?
Oh my goodness. Yeah. My faith journey has been an interesting one. So I grew up in the church. I don't even think I talked about that part of my music journey, but I mean, I grew up playing in the church. When I was in sixth grade, I believe did I start that young? Playing keys in my church?
Oh yeah, I started playing guitar. I played guitar in my worship band for God so that girls would notice. Does that make sense?
Yes. This is for you, God, but also, God, if you want to help me out.
But also girls are looking at me and I kind of like it.
Oh my goodness. That's amazing. Oh, no, I wasn't doing it for guys. I think I was always trying to hide out from people most of the time. Yeah. Which is kind of funny because that I ended up choosing the career that I wanted to do, because I mean, I feel like this explains it best, but I was on this project a couple years ago. I was on this like little mini series for Awesomeness TV, and one of the actresses, like a week or two into production, was like, I looked you up. And I was like, yeah. She's like, you're very unassuming. Like, she's like, you're just very quiet, but then you have this like presence online that's like totally different.
Yeah, but it's very true. Like the first boy that took you out to a movie and said you were quiet, like wasn't that far off.
No,
like you're not the person at a party who's dominating the room. Like like nobody in a million years would go look at you and go, Bad Boy Records.
Yes. Oh, you know no, I mean? Not at all. Oh my gosh. Like, not at all. I mean, even when I started, when I first met my husband, now husband Cooper, he was living with 5 other guys at the time, and apparently they all were like, I don't know, man, she's kind of quiet. But I was like, I'm an observer, so I'm just taking in all these, like, all those crazy personalities and just kind of like just taking it in. But all this to say,
faith journey.
Yeah,
faith
all
journey.
this to say, I ended up playing, leading my worship team by the time I was like in 10th grade. Yeah. And I was, doing Wednesday nights, Sunday nights. So my like growing up, and like I grew up like in a Christian home, and so that was very much like ingrained at a young age. But when I was 6 years old, I still have a memory of when I first accepted Christ. I was just like in my room, and then one day I just said the little prayer, and I said, Jesus, I know you died for my sins, come live in my heart. And that was like my choice when I was 6. And when I reached maybe around 20, I mean, this was probably around when I got dropped and things like that too. I also, or was it before? No, let me think about this. Okay, it was before I got signed because I ended up, I didn't even talk about this because it's not super related to my music career, but I was in a very toxic relationship that ended up just sending me on a very bad journey. This was like right before I um, moved to California, and it was just like, oh, my headspace. It was terrible, absolutely terrible. I kind of got to a place where I didn't completely turn away from God, but I was just kind of like, I don't need to.
Yeah.
Like, I
Yeah.
can do this on my own.
Right.
I'm not really engaging in a relationship. I'm not reading. I'm not praying. I'm just kind of like, I got this.
Yeah.
I'm fine. And I have it somewhere like in my like notes on my phone where I just one night just started like crying out like I can't do this without you. And I literally like I feel this void
Mm.
without engaging with you, God. And I just kind of like wrote out a prayer on my phone. I remember that night and I was literally in tears. And that was kind of like a turning point in my like faith journey and my relationship and
Mm.
just kind of like reincorporating that relationship in my life with
Yeah.
God and the importance of it. Um, and so, but like, it's tough. It's like it's always like an up and down thing because I am not the perfect example Christian. I mean, I guess who is, but I'm not like in my Bible every day like I need to be. But I feel like my relationship, like I talk frequently to God, even just giving thanks throughout the day for
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
smallest things and just, you know, say my prayers and
Do you feel like where you grew up in Texas and kind of the mentality of Christianity uh, made you think that there was a perfect Christian out there that was always in their Bible and like there was a standard that you were trying to live up to from your childhood?
honestly probably because it was just like it's Bible belt. It's
Yeah.
just like church on every corner, like this is what we do every Sunday no matter what. And it was never from my memory never expressed like if you don't go on a Sunday like you're a bad person, but I realized as an adult like no, that doesn't, especially when I was touring a lot, like I wasn't going to show up somewhere every Sunday.
Right.
Like it just wasn't going to happen. That I realized like that relationship is kind of, I think that's why I keep using that word. It's like the most important part. Obviously like the church for the community, and there is a lot to that, but I think I realized like, oh, that doesn't make me a bad person
Right. Right. Yeah,
if I'm not there every Sunday.
I had to realize kind of later in life that, I had this vision like growing up. I always went to the same church, Glendale Presbyterian
Mm-hmm.
Church here in Glendale. And like in the 80s and 90s when I was growing up through the youth groups and stuff like that, I thought like, oh, they have figured it out. Like this is all that Christianity is. I didn't know anything else about the world. I didn't
Yeah.
even know anything about Christianity. And so that everything that happened there became the model of this is what Christianity is. Anything outside of this is not it. You know what I mean? So when my
Yes.
eyes started to be open to other things, I had to fight off I'm not living up to that standard anymore, and neither are they, and neither are they. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you have this vision when you're growing up of this is what it is, and it's only this,
Yes.
as if God ordained, 1988 Glendale Presbyterian Church to like get it all right.
Yes.
You know
And this is what the standard is, and this is what it has to be. I mean, I even feel like that with like I don't swear a lot, but like even like my mentality on things like that has changed because I realize, like words are very important, but I also think it's how you use your words. I think you can very much hurt someone
Sure.
way more
Yeah.
without swearing. And
Yeah.
I think like things like that, it was like, oh, you said that word. That's a sin.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think like things like that, my perspective has changed on a little bit too. And that's always, up for debate. But I think, yeah, just like things like that. And also being in the public eye, I would like, if someone asked me, I would talk about my faith, but I think I was, speaking like that perfectionist, always afraid that if I put myself out there, if I, had my favorite Bible verse in my Instagram bio, that I was almost more afraid of what other Christians would think of me, if
Oh,
that makes
sure.
sense.
Yeah,
Like, oh,
totally.
well, she's supposed to be a good Christian girl and she's doing
Right.
this or
Right.
singing about this. And even if it's not, something that I think is like
Well,
morally wrong.
The Christian world is so harsh. I mean, like, even going back to like, the Christian world like rebelled against Amy Grant because she wrote an album of some love songs.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They
That's
weren't even
that
like
wasn't that long
sexy,
ago.
or they wasn't
No.
like, she was doing nothing but like writing love songs, and the Christian world rebelled. Like, the Christian world can be an intense mob if you put yourself out there that that's what you're doing and they don't like it.
Yes, and that's who you are. So I was
Yeah.
like, I just want to, like, if people ask about it, of course I'll talk about it. If I hope through my actions that, you know, I can, people can maybe see that or see something, I don't know, in me that's maybe different, or like, want to ask questions about. But
Yeah.
I never was the one to be like, oh, I'm, hi, my name is Megan, Jesus lover,
Yeah.
Mary. Yeah, I just
Yeah.
never, I never did that. And I think that's like the reason why, because I didn't want to be put in that corner and then under that microscope.
Yeah, the other thing that's happening right now, I think, for artists when they, are talking about their faith or whatever, is the term Christian just is so broad. It means so many
Yes, it
different
means
things.
so many things.
Like, immediately people are going to be like, "Oh, so you're homophobic," or, like,
Yes.
whatever their notion of
Yes.
what Christianity is, where they grew up in their experience, they're going to attach to
Yes.
you, and it's so broadly defined that you don't want to put yourself in any kind of box that way.
Exactly. Yes. Oh my gosh. Because it's just like, it does not have a good connotation to it.
Yeah. Well, I'm working on
Or,
a poem right now that I'm almost finished with, and it's called "I Had a Name." And it's basically like, when I was growing up, the term Christian like made so much sense to me because it was
mm,
so narrowly defined by me just trying to do good things, right?
yeah.
And then as I grew up, that term started to mean so many different things that I felt like I'm having a hard time using it now. And then
Mm,
you kind of like experience the loss of the purity of just what it was when I was a kid to call myself a Christian.
yeah.
It's really hard, really
Or to
hard.
even say Jesus sometimes.
Yeah.
It's so much easier to be like God, because
Yeah.
then the second you say Jesus, it's like, oh, Christian, here are all the things that I think that means and what I think that means that you think, like,
Right. Right.
and how
God
you
is a
think
much
about
more
me.
broad term.
Mm-hmm.
Like, the universe is doing this, or stuff
Yes,
like
yes,
that.
exactly.
It's way more safe, and it's sad. It's sad.
Yes, it is sad. It is, and I there are moments where I'm like, oh, like, do I need to be more vocal? Like, I don't know. Like,
Right.
do I just pick and choose my moments, or do I just want to like live my life like in the best way that I can to be like Jesus, and like
Yeah.
hope that shows.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
No, I think that's dead on. I mean, I think, Jesus came down and called out Pharisees who were standing on the corner praying in front of everybody.
Mm,
And he went and lived with the people. He ate with the people and lived with them. And I think his example certainly shows that it's all about just living in community with a diverse group of people and trying
yes.
your best to be a good person.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's not end on a downer here. It's got a little
Yes,
dark
yes.
here. If people want to follow you and Cooper and what you guys are doing and check out a live stream and stuff,
Oh
where can
yeah.
people find you?
It's a wild time. Twitch.tv/Megan and Cooper TV. We're on Twitch, we're on YouTube, and I will be putting out music still. My YouTube is Megan Nicole. Most of my socials are Megan Nicole. But yeah, it's been a fun time.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for doing this and sharing your story. And
Yes.
I am so grateful and honored to be your first podcast.
Oh my gosh, so exciting. I go on tangents sometimes and just will ramble on and on. So
No, you're good. This was a great episode and I appreciate you coming on very much.
Thanks, Eric.